go before we at least just touch on the desegregation and its effects on our community. We spoke privately, and I explained to you how I felt about the entire process and what it has meant to our community. And that is not a very popular position. Mm-hmm. And I just happen to be of the understanding that looking at where we are today and where from where we've come, I am not convinced that the process of desegregation being the most positive thing for our community. In particular, it seems to draw our best and brightest away from us, leaving us without within our communities. Could you share with us your position on that?
Well, I absolutely positively agree that desegregation, certainly as it came to be, mm-hmm. Was a gross error on mm-hmm. our part. And it has had a devastating impact on our mental, emotional, intellectual, physical, cultural well-being. It has and continues to contribute to the degradation of us as a people. It is like affected no drug could have ever. It affirms notions of inferiority. It was mm-hmm. not what we started out looking for in the first place. Mm-hmm. We were looking for equal treatment, in fact. And this is, I think, a good segue. Joanne Robinson, who is the woman who actually precipitated and initiated the Montgomery bus boycott, an educator who was so outraged by the treatment of black women on public transportation in Montgomery that it is she who called for the boycott. Perhaps by now most people know that Rosa Parks did not get up because her
right.
feet were tired.
Right.
That was a planned event, and
exactly.
a great deal of training and preparation and infrastructure that went into place in order to do that,
to carry that out. That's right.
Action. A second name is Johnny Rebecca Daniels Carr, who was one of the organizing and founding members of the Montgomery Improvement Association. She was a girlhood friend of mm-hmm. Rosa Parks. Mm-hmm. She was on the bus with Rosa Parks. It was her job, once Rosa Parks got arrested, to go and tell E.D. Dixon, the lawyer, that they had carried out their part. Mrs. Parks had refused to get up. She had been arrested. They had taken her to jail. It was time for E.D. Dixon to go over to the jailhouse to bail her out. So it was all very well-planned, precisioned action. And that's very important for a number of reasons, because we need to understand that we're not going to get free by happenstance. We're going to get free because we plan and work our plan. Otherwise, we're going to continue to be a part of somebody else's. When Rosa Parks was arrested, Joanne Robinson prepared 35,000 flyers to be distributed. And in it, she said, another woman has been arrested and thrown in jail because she refused to get up out of her seat on the bus for a white person to sit down. It is the second time since the Claudette Colvin case. Claudette was a young black woman whom who had spontaneously refused to get up, but whom the community and the NAACP specifically had not embraced because it was not their action.
They didn't orchestrate it,
and also because many organizations have this theory about having clean cases and clean plaintiffs or defendants, so that they don't have other issues that Claudette Colvin had not been selected by them. This has to be stopped, wrote Joanne Robinson. God, I lost my phrase. Oh, Negroes have rights too. For if Negroes did not ride the buses, they could not operate. 3/4 of the riders are Negro, yet we are arrested or have to stand over empty seats. If we do not do something to stop these arrests, they will continue. The next time it may be you or your daughter or your mother. This woman's case will come up on Monday. We are therefore asking every Negro to stay off the buses Monday in protest of the arrest and trial. Don't ride the buses to work, to town, to school, or anywhere on Monday. You can afford to stay out of school for one day if you have no other way to go except by bus. You can also afford to stay out of town for one day. If you work, take a cab or walk. But please, children and grown-ups, don't ride the bus at all on Monday. Please stay off of all buses Monday. Now, Joanne Robinson was the chair of the Women's Political Council of Montgomery. So you can see how far back the activism and the resistance has been led by African women as well as our involvement. And notably, she is not asking that we be, even at that time, be able to sit in the same section with the white folks, just that we get what we're paying for. As she says, Negroes have rights too, and the demand is that those rights be respected. And that's what's always been the demand. It's when we have allowed outsiders to finance and thus determine the agenda for our community and for our activism that we have gotten sidetracked. And the desegregation really had more to do with Jews being able to access the larger society, the Gentile society, than it had to do with our demand for participation. Our demand was that our teachers be paid the same as white teachers, that our school buildings be as well kept as white schools, that we didn't have secondhand books, that we had as many microscopes, we had access to computers. It was about equal access for our facilities as compared with those that were made available to whites. At one point, it was like $50 a year was being spent on black students, and $500 a year was being spent on white students. We were saying we're taxpayers too. We got the same dollars that white people have. If you're going to spend $500 on your kids, spend $500 on ours. And the cost of segregation was such that white folks could no longer afford to segregate, so they came up with this desegregation scheme in the implementation of somebody else's agenda, which we had carried forward and allowed our situation to be used to advance that agenda, which was not our agenda at all and has never been translated in a way that served our interests. We have the schoolhouse, the jailhouse. We have so-called special education, which is not under health guidelines in the public schools. It's under security guidelines. It is a police matter, not a health matter.
That's right.
Wherein with white kids, misconduct is viewed as a health issue, they immediately send them to a therapist. But if it's our kids who are misbehaving or behaving consistent with whatever conditions they may have, they call the in-school police, not the nurse. So the whole business of desegregation has hardened our sense of inferiority, the internalization of white supremacy, and the service to it, Barack Obama being the highest example of embodiment of it.
Right. That's right. Wow. Okay. And so, I mean, why do you think that, I mean, because listening to you explain this, and from what I can understand, these are relatively simple facts, and they're, you know, situations that we are faced with on a regular basis, especially if we have children in school. But even having gone through the public school systems, we have to see that this is what is going on. Why is this understanding so unpopular? Why are we so dismissive of the idea that perhaps we made a wrong turn, we made a mistake, so that we might be able to recapture, what is left of our community and of our dignity, and try something different?
Well, I think that the leadership has been bought off, to put it simply and directly. Kwame Ture and I used to argue a lot, but there was one thing that he said frequently that I absolutely agree with, and that is that some people got confused about what the civil rights, human rights movement was about. Mm-hmm. That they thought it was about them and getting a good job. Mm-hmm. Function and purpose of the movement is the liberation of African people. And we are no different from other people in that we take the course of least resistance. We take the easiest way out. And if it doesn't appear to be having a negative effect on us directly, then we are willing to turn a blind eye to the devastation of others around us. I would also point out that, SNCC was a very small organization. There weren't 500 people in SNCC, mm-hmm. although it impacted the whole world. The Black consciousness movement around the world, and especially in South Africa, came out of the Black Power movement of SNCC. But we have to recognize the fact that even in wartime, only 3 to 4% of the population is active. And therefore, when we are in an environment when we are constantly on the edge of survival, food, clothing, shelter, health care, education, clean air, clean water are just beyond our reach. We are like third world people. We spend the bulk of our time, even when we're driving a BMW, trying to figure out how we're going to pay for it. Mm. When before the predatory lending bubble burst, the income of the average white family, that's 2 adults and 2 children, was like $80,000. For blacks, it was like $20,000. Mm-hmm. And we were trying to live on $20,000 as if we were making $80,000. Now, Correct. How crazy does that make you?
Correct.
So, now the net worth of a black family is $5,000, and of a black woman is a negative something.
Wow.
So what are we going to do? Now is the time to refocus and reorient and commit ourselves to the survival and ultimate thriving of ourselves and of our people. And I'm just hoping that we will not just take advantage of the circumstances in which we're operating at this point in time, but that the circumstances will force us to shape a life-affirming agenda that we will implement in the interest of the generations yet to come, because that's where we are. We are at Tavis Smiley said the other night on the C-SPAN show that he's doing Remaking America, mm-hmm. and he was almost in tears when he was saying that he thought that this was a watershed moment, and that if we don't take advantage of it, then we will forever be behind. And there's a Dr. Abdullah Kalimat, who's another SNCC person, and professor. He was a professor at Morehouse when I was a student at Spelman. We wound up taking over the administration building and locking the board of trustees of Morehouse College into Trevor Arnett Library, demanding a Black Studies program in the AU Center. Agrees with him that this is a watershed moment because of technology, and we have absolutely got to get ahead of it and get on it. And those of us who claim to know better have got to do better by doing just that and pulling and dragging the rest of us along, kicking and screaming and however they may be.
Mm-hmm. I want to thank you for that moment of confirmation, because I have said many times that I often have felt that we are at a precipice, which is just the way that I express it, that we're at a precipice. And if I really feel that if we don't get it, if we just don't get it at this juncture, I just don't know that we will have an opportunity again. And so that is a very macabre validation, but I thank you for that.
Well, it takes almost in the fact that we survived slavery, and there's no other people who've experienced slavery in the way that we experienced slavery. So I just have to believe that we will survive.
I hope so.